Greetings! I have returned. It has been a hell of a week. Lots of things are happening that getting me down, man. So, I want to engage in a little escapism tonight. Talk about one of my favorite cult film subgenres. And I'm sure you guys love it too, or hate it. I mean, it rarely evokes a middling response. And that's the Italian Cannibal horror subgenre. I've covered Cannibal Holocaust twice on this channel, which is kind of, to me, the masterpiece of the entire subgenre. But I also covered twice Cannibal Apocalypse, which is kind of sideways cousin. I mean, it had an Italian director and some Italian actors, but was shot in America and was largely urban action with cannibalism thrown in, and didn't have any like natives, disemboweling, deserving white crackers who are out in the jungle trying to exploit them. Yes, I use the C word, crackers. But Cannibal Apocalypse is not, it doesn't really have most of the hallmarks of the genre. It kind of piggybacked on the success of it. But, the Cannibal Holocaust is the big one. The big one. And then Cannibal Ferox by Umberto Lenzi was very notorious. Over here it was called Make Them Die Slowly, which was later appropriated by Rob Zombie for a White Zombie album title. I used to see it at the video stores as Make Them Die Slowly. I mean, it was so repulsive, the scenes they show in the video box. I mean, they would just show any gory thing in the video box. And this was like Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a pretty damn uptight place. Even in the mom and pop stores, and we had a place called Pick a Flick, and they had tons of these movies. And of course, they were dubbed and cut and badly pan and scan. I didn't get to rent many of them back then. I was extremely curious. I was a little afraid of some of them, to see some of them. That was one of them I was kind of afraid of. They even had like a little room where you could, rent pornos. The good old days. So, I never went in that room for what it's worth, but I thought it was cool they had it, and they weren't kind of unapologetic about it. And this was a big store, Yeah, that's some good stuff back then, man. I miss those days. So you had to like really search for films and kind of exhaust every video store, in town and in the outlying counties to find some stuff. I'll never forget when my friend Jeremy Horn, I'm still friends with on Facebook. He moved in with me later, but before he moved in with me, he was hanging out with me a lot, and he came over, and my friend Shannon was over, and I think my ex-girlfriend at the time was over, and my roommate Susie and her friend Gary, who was this strange gay death rocker who was studying to be a doctor. Cool guy, really nice guy. And Jeremy brings home these two videotapes, and he's like, I went to this store in Kannapolis, North Carolina, and I got Necromantic 1 and 2. And, we just threw it on, and it didn't have I don't know if you want to say it had a mixed reaction. It had a reaction. I mean, most of my friends that I named were kind of trying to laugh it off, the way people do, and including me at times. But also they were pretty revolted. I think Gary was pretty excited. He might have been kind of turned on by it, but because he was like a hardcore death rocker. So it was a quest, a journey back then. So anyway, I never got around to renting Make Them Die Slowly. Years later, I saw Cannibal Ferox on videotape. Kind of in a fragmented form. A guy, Michael Bliss, I used to hang out with, was playing it at a party, and we were all getting pretty drunk, and not many of us there were really into hardcore, into cinema. He was, and then my friend Michael, a different Michael, and myself, and the other Michael was really repulsed by it. And I had already purchased Cannibal Holocaust on videotape, which made the other Michael, Michael J. He was really revolted about that. I've talked about that on another video. Um, I became curious about the genre. I decided that I thought Cannibal Holocaust was a classic, one of my favorite films, really. It soon became, and Cannibal Ferox was just kind of needlessly cruel and sadistic, and kind of slackly made, kind of really, I don't know, for Lenzi, just really kind of an ugly film. Even in the most pristine print I've seen of it, it's just kind of an ugly film. Content is ugly. The actors are ugly, except for Umberto Reducci. He's a handsome guy, but the photography's ugly. The special effects are gross. They're ugly. It's too much ugly, man. And so I sought out a few others. Anchor Bay put out Mountain of the Cannibal God, or Slave of the Cannibal God, with Ursula Andress and Stacy Keach, and I'm trying to remember who directed it. Was that Margheriti too? No, it was Sergio Martino. I think that was his only venture into this terrain. I didn't like it, and one of the things I didn't like about it was it kind of plodded along, and the stars looked like they really didn't want to be there. But there was a scene, there's real animal deaths throughout these films, and I've discussed this on my Cannibal Holocaust reviews and my own moral, ethical, whatever stance, because I'm an animal rights person and a vegetarian, kind of leaning towards veganism and catching hell all the time. Well, whenever I'm, speak up and say I'm that way, still a lot of prejudice towards vegetarians and vegans. Yeah. So this wasn't a vegetarian situation at all. There was real animal death, and there's one where he snake, I think, grabbed I want to say like a mongoose probably, and started to squeeze the life out of it, and it was starting to get crushed. And it was slow and kind of sadistic. The camera lingered on it. I mean, there is a scene like that in a couple other of these movies. To me, this was the worst. And it became a stock kind of scene in these movies, but this was the worst because that little rat-like creature, mongoose, whatever it was, he looked right at the camera, and his eyes were like filled with kind of fear and sadness, and he's looking right at you as he's dying. It was just too much for me, so I sold that DVD. I couldn't handle it. There are not many movies I've sold for moral objectionable, or being morally objectionable to me. Again, I'm not saying censor them or any of that, but I just kind of put that movie in the permanent, back bin. Certain movies are a bit too sadistic for me, and not many, but some. And especially if it's real cruelty like that, it's just a bit much. But that's kind of interlaced throughout this subgenre. So, yeah, Lenzi had done Cannibal Ferox, and later I finally saw Mangiati Vivi, or Eaten Alive, which I also have on Blu-ray. And who knows, I could do 3 parts to this. I don't know, we'll see. But we're going to go full circle backwards with Lenzi. So tonight we're going to do Man from Deep River. So this was the first one. This was like 1974. And of course, at some point, Deodato, claimed he had the idea first and just didn't film it. And those guys have been, well, Deodato's alive. Lenzi is not. I hope Lenzi wasn't eaten alive. They bickered and squabbled over who actually created this genre. I mean, like, it's a point of pride here, I mean, but I have a huge affinity for this one. I mean, I don't watch it this one, meaning the subgenre, but I don't know. I dig them. They have repellent aspects, but I like exotic locales. I like the kind of sense of dread, like anything can happen and it's going to be really, really bad. And the first time I saw Cannibal Holocaust, I was just gripped with that fear and that feeling of dread, and it did everything happened that I was terrified of happening and more. Memory River is a little bit different than that. I haven't been drinking, I promise. Um, Ivan Rasimov, he's this kind of blonde, blue-eyed cat. He's, wealthy, kind of an adventurer. Now, Ivan Rasimov, I don't believe really was blonde. I haven't seen him as a blonde in any other films. But I think that accentuates his whiteness when he gets to the jungle. And of course, things go awry for him, and he gets captured by this native tribe. And they cart him through the jungle in this big net, kind of the way the apes did Charlton Heston in Planet of the Apes. And then he starts to become acclimated to the tribe. He starts to like them. I mean, he sees some grotesque, horrible things and rites of passage. And it seems like after a while, he's like, I don't want to say cool with it, but well, maybe, I mean, you see a humanity in these characters in the tribe that you don't see in any of the other films that I've mentioned. I can't think of any of the movies. Mimi Lai plays in several of these movies as the kind of incongruous, beautiful jungle girl. She doesn't look like the rest of them. I mean, she has similarly tan skin and black hair, but dressing in a loincloth, but she doesn't look like them feature-wise. And also, she has to be the first, tribeswoman in history to have silicone implants. I don't know how they came to be. Maybe they aren't silicone. They're some kind of natural thing. Maybe they're marzipan implants, but she has them. But yeah, this movie, more than just her, she's in this movie. More than just her are depicted as kind of like actual human beings. The old man is like the head of the tribe. He's pretty cool. He looks kind of Asiatic, but I mean, this tribe is, I don't know what the name of this real tribe is. I did it one time. I didn't research this before this. Sorry. Look it up. Okay. But, it's obviously these people are kind of indigenous, and they kind of racially look related to, indigenous peoples from the Americas and Asiatic people and Filipinos. And, they're just, but some of these people are real tribes people, and some of them are actors. There's one villainous guy who's really over the top with his sick makeup, and he's kind of goofy looking. Obviously, he's an actor. Or maybe he's a native guy who's just like, I want to be an actor, and he just hams the fuck up. Ooh, some beautiful woman just texted me, but what that means nothing. I mean, anymore. Sorry. I just ate somebody's tongue, I think. Yeah, so Ivan flips out. I was going to say real quick here of importance is that this Blu-ray was put out by REVUE, and they were having some really good sales a few years ago. And I picked up a few of their titles. I didn't keep all of them. Some of them I was taking a chance, like Blind Buys, like Hallucination Strip with Bud Cord. I finally just got rid of that one. But I did get a wonderful copy of Long Hair of Death, also by Margheriti, one of his greatest Gothics, one of the greatest Gothic horrors. But I picked up this one too, and their name for it is Sacrifice with an exclamation mark. And it was called that in certain parts of America and English-speaking regions, for drama. But I think it was cashing in on Richard Harris's A Man Called Horse. I mean, I really think probably the plot itself was directly inspired by that, where Horse is he's from Boston. One of the short stories from Boston. I don't know how the movie he was British. Somebody comes over here. They like the idea British lord among savages, Tarzan, but the savages, quote unquote, were Indians. But he took place in the rituals and it was all barbaric, and he learned to survive, and then he became one of them, and then there was like a sequel or two, and I remember the theatrical trailers when I was a kid on TV, and Return of a Man Called Horse, and those trailers were so great. I wasn't even really into movies as a kid. I did like horror movies, not super gory, but I did like classic horror movies. I liked comedies, which I'm not that much into comedies now, and I love science fiction. Uh, but those ads of all different genres, they were really gripping. They were very memorable. Um, so yeah, this one is really mostly, it has more story and less sadism, but it's got some sadism. It has some animal death, but not a lot. And they keep focusing on, uh, the chieftain's daughter, played by Mamie Lyon. She's the lovely, goddess there, and a goddess like native girl. And, of course, it's Lenzi, and because they swing the camera this way, and you see her smiling, and they do this kind of weird zoom. Every time she shows up, they do that zoom. Like, here she is. Not very subtle, but yeah, I don't know. This is a good one. It's an interesting movie. Like I said, or did I say it's kind of a survivalist film, more than an outright cannibal horror film, but it definitely establishes all the precedents for those films later. Like a lot of the tribal rituals that are supposedly so grotesque, some of which are accurate to real life, and some they make up and exaggerate. And those were kind of inspired by the Mondo films by Jacopetti and Prosperi, which were hugely influential. And actually, I think Cannibal Holocaust is a savage parody of Jacopetti and Prosperi and the Mondo films. Anything for the shot. Keep filming. We've got to get it back to America, Alan. Yeah, the film's got to go back to America, but we're going to die. You can't win the award when you're fucking, in someone's warm belly, to paraphrase one of the ads for Cannibal Holocaust. So my cat is licking my feet. Yeah, so this one's cool. I think the next one I'm going to do, well, I already know. The next one I'm going to do is the next kind of stage in this film lineage. It's going to be amping it up to the next level, and that will be Ruggero Deodato's 1977 Ultimo Mondo Cannibal. I think I'm saying it right. The Last Cannibal World, which that's the actual title of the movie. The Blu-ray I have is called The Last Survivor on the front. The title on the screen, Last Cannibal World. And it was released on Media Blasters DVD in the 2000s as Jungle Holocaust. I don't like any of the alternate titles. I love Last Cannibal World. And I love that film. And that also has Ivan Razumov. So, I'll go and talk about it now, damn it. So, that movie is one I've watched a whole lot. I don't know why. It hits me on different levels. Like some of the early stuff is genuinely creepy and scary horror when they're kind of like their helicopter won't take off and they're in the jungle in the dark and they see the made up natives through the windows and they did it again. You see Mimi Lion, she smiles and the camera goes like this. It's so goofy. But yeah, some of that is really creepy. And then I think Massimo Foxy, the star, he is an incredible actor, great physical actor, great dramatic actor, very expressive. Of course, he's dubbed in the main print that most people know about and have seen, but he's well dubbed. Very sympathetic guy, very good actor, very kind of this rich guy who just wants to have fun out there. He's not like an exploitative guy, but he gets stranded there and he's a little cocky, but not like most of the characters in this movie. He's not even as cocky as Razumov in this. Razumov in Last Cannibal World, his best buddy is kind of a nerdy like anthropology nut, and he's not for the like rough and tumble, but he is fascinated by the scientific elements of it. And their pilot and the pilot's I guess girlfriend, they're I think Filipino, and they suffer some horrible deaths early on. So the two guys are stranded, and it's just they get separated, and you think that Razumov dies, and oh my god! I mean, I love the acting. Fosse is like, I can't remember the name. See, I should know this by now. The name of Razumov's character, but he's always like crying out his name and, buddy, we're gonna be okay. And it's kind of pitiful, like to see this character kind of like stripped of his humanity bit by bit by bit, and demeaned and humiliated by these cannibals. And there are more animal death scenes in this movie. There are more disgusting rituals, and they humiliate him and take his clothes off and play with his genitals and make him, imprison him in this kind of weird pit with a bird, the giant beak that starts pecking him. And, I mean, anything bad that can happen to this man happens to him. I think his name's Robert is the main character's name. He's played by Massimo. And Ralph. Ralph is Ivan. So Robert and Ralph. Robert. And he has this funny accent for some reason. He's not Ivan Razumov. No, not his voice dubbed. I don't think. Robert, we've got to get out of here. This is madness. And Robert's like, Ralph, and he's just like tripping out. And there's all kinds of strange little naive parts, like before they get separated. How they get separated is they build this kind of weird makeshift raft. All these gross things have been happening around him, and those other two characters have been brutally murdered, and and they build that raft, and then they got, we did it, hooray! And it's like so out of place in this kind of movie, but that made it really kind of charming and sweet. So they eventually get reunited, and by this time, Foxy has conquered the Mimi Lai character. Again, she's in this one. She tried to help him too, and she thought he just wanted sex, but eventually he kind of sort of rapes her. I mean, within this culture, it's hard to say. I mean, probably that's the only thing that happens sexually, and that tribe is rape. Hey, buddy, my kitty's here. And yeah, you see him? Okay, buddy. But it's part of his regression. And at one point, he defeats this other tribal guy, and in order to really prove that, don't fuck with me, he just grabs a human heart, and chomps into it and bites it. And, Foxy's eyes are just so intense. He has such an unusual look compared to some of these leading men in these movies. I mean, he's got really tightly curly hair, dark and short, and a beard with a little bit of facial hair. Actually, begins with no facial hair and grows a beard, a la Heston in Planet of the Apes. And he's a very lithe guy. He's not super muscular. He's not like super Adonis, but he's a fit guy. And of course, he's reduced to complete nudity many times. Now they just Razumov just saw Mimi Lai completely naked, and the camera again zooms right in. So instead of smiling this time, she's embarrassed. And this is still Man from Deep River I'm watching. The Last Cannibal World, I don't know, it's got some really powerful shit in it. I mean, if you overlook some of the cheesy stuff and some of the more repellent things that might be a turnoff for people, it definitely is a survivalist movie. I mean, it definitely is a cannibal horror movie, but it's definitely one man, and he's trying to just survive in this insane universe he's never experienced before, which is like the Last Cannibal World. Right, buddy? He doesn't like that movie, I don't think. But anyway, yeah, buddy. So I don't know, man. I like it when he makes cameo appearances. He's such a ham. I, I highly recommend both of these movies, Man from Deep River and Last Cannibal World. I'm not going to review Eaten Alive after all. That would be two Lenzis and one Deodato. That wouldn't be fair to gang up on Deodato, because, like I said, they each kind of made their claim to it. The way I see it is, Lenzi was out the gate first, well ahead of Deodato. No matter what Deodato may have intended or thought about doing, or contributed ideas to, Lenzi made the movie. and it was a hit. And you know, 3 years later, Deodato made Last Cannibal World, and it was also a hit, of its kind, and very notorious. He took it way to the next level and kind of codified all the elements of it. And then, 2 or 3 years later, he did Cannibal Holocaust. So Last Cannibal World is kind of a warm up for that. So yeah, when I'm in the mood, I really dig these movies. Have I said that before? Yeah, 100 times. But I was just glad to be back on camera after a few days. It's been a painful week, a lot of physical pain and a lot of stress over money. I had to start another fundraiser. I'm going to put the link down here. I am in dire need and bad shape, and my health is in some ways heading towards getting better, but I'm still experiencing stuff I don't want anyone to experience, really. My worst enemy, I don't know, maybe not. I'm kidding. Um, I don't know what I'll do next. I do have a very special Extreme and Forgotten episode. It's going to be like super special. One of my all-time favorite movies, and I've got that one kind of sketched out, and I've got props for it and everything. Yeah, and my other show, I filmed the first episode and I reviewed it and I didn't care for it. So I don't know why. So I made an outline today. Amazingly, an outline. I'm not going to do this one off the cuff like everything else like these. And I'm excited. I just don't know when I'll actually shoot the first episode. But so I want to make a shout out to some people who've been supportive of me recently. Tim McLean, of course, Tim Tolbert, Mick Cantone, Nicola Nazarino, Kimberly Lindbergs, Shelley Druckery. Who am I forgetting? Probably a lot. Maybe not. I felt very alone lately. I mean, ever since the thing with Ad Meliora, and then being in Facebook jail for all of December, and no one seemed to really notice I was gone. And no one's really paid attention to any of my fundraisers, and that's cool. Whitney McGinnis, she's very sweet. She gave me $5 yesterday. But yeah, I don't know. And then I had a falling out with a friend. I don't know if it's falling out or not. I'm getting the cold treatment from a friend, a very close friend, and his relative who was also a friend. And that's a whole story for another video, but I don't know if I'll even talk about that on camera. Give them their privacy, but if they continue to ladle on the odd behavior, other than just kind of giving me the cold shoulder, the ghosting treatment, if it gets any odder than that or outright malicious, I may, go into it. I'll use pseudonyms, but that was a distressing event. It made me angry. It made me angry because this person, for some reason, like just turned on me and withdrew from me completely after I gave him some constructive criticism. I wasn't mean. I wasn't cruel. Oh my God. I mean, maybe it was the last straw for him, and he kind of resented and hated me all along. But that's cool. Whatever. But I can't really apologize to him because I don't think I did anything wrong. I know I didn't. He's in a bad spot and he needs help. He needs some guidance, and it's not my responsibility to do it, but I decided to at least try to help out, not be tough love, but you can't say anything to this person sometimes without them getting angry or defensive or misreading, and a lot of it's a neurodivergent situation, and I get it, but it's difficult to cope with. So that's the way it goes, man. Say hasta la vida. All right, take care. Watch some cannibal movies. Watch what you eat. We are what we eat.